Herzlich willkommen zu Women Hit Harder, the Female Power Podcast.
Women Hit Harder is back. I'm so sorry for the long time not posting or streaming anything, but I've been very busy with, putting my life here to the USA. But today it's episode 47 and my guest is Keppler from South Africa. She's an ultra runner and endurance athlete. And let's start with this. She's one of the most badass women in the field of ultra running. You've been super successful, Jo, in the past years. But before that, to be honest, you had some real struggles in your life. So sport has not just become a lifestyle, it actually saved you. Let's talk about that.
Well, thank you, Julia, first of all, for having me. It's such an honor and privilege to be on your show and see the incredible things you do. And I just, it's how it started and where I am now sitting with you having this conversation. I would say I started running about 4 years ago in 2019, and my running journey was a result of me going into a treatment center for drug and alcohol addiction. So for most of my life, I had issues with alcohol, and then it obviously manifested itself into drugs. And I had a lot of issues. It was in and out of treatment centers, really trying to find a solution, trying to find outside things to fix myself. And when I was in treatment, I did the 12 steps and I worked the program of AA and NA. And there I found out that the solution was actually it was an inside job. So it was nothing from outside that could fix me. It wasn't in a relationship. It wasn't in a drug. It wasn't, it wasn't even in running, actually. It was something within a spiritual solution that I had to find. But a byproduct of that was that at this rehab I was at, they had a little 3K loop around the property that we were allowed to do as our daily exercise. And I started doing that 3K loop. And I really loved the way I felt. Like I would exercise, and for me it was the same release I was getting, when I was using and drinking, but I didn't have it down afterwards. I actually felt good. And from there I just loved running, and I started with 3Ks to 5Ks to 10Ks, and I left treatment in April 2019 after being in for 3 months. Bearing in mind, when I went in, I was extremely underweight. I was about 45 kgs. I had sores on my body. My hair was falling out. I mean, I don't think I would have gone on much longer if I hadn't got the help then. And then I left treatment in April 2019. And I said, no, I need to enter a run or something to keep myself motivated so I don't fall back into those unhealthy habits. And I'd stop smoking. So I entered a 50-mile race, which is 80 kilometers, and that was in September. So it was 6 months after I left treatment. And then the month before, there was a 75K race, and I went and did it, and I was the second female in. So I said to myself, I'm not doing the 50-miler, I'm going to do the 100-miler. And I changed my entry to the 100-miler like a month before. My father had a heart attack because he was like, what are you doing? You've just come out of treatment and you're going to run 160 kilometers. And it was the most incredible experience. I finished 4th in the women and under 24 hours. And it was an incredibly inspiring moment for me because the race started at night and it went into the day. And for me, it was like so symbolic of my journey of like starting in the dark and then like going to the lights. And like my son was at the finish and he held my hand and ran down the road with me, and my mom and dad were there and my husband, and it was just like I'll never ever forget that experience. And then afterwards I was like, hey, I'm pretty good at this running thing. Like I'm really good at like taking pain. Like I can do this for like a living. And then I started entering more races, and I started competing and taking my running a bit more seriously. And I've grown from strength to strength from that.
Oh my goodness, this is a lot of information to digest. So first of all, to overcome this like addiction, right? Then to say, okay, actually 50 miles is not enough for me. I'm going to do more. Then you mentioned your son. You mentioned your training, your husband. This is like a lot to deal with. And then on the side, you still have like your normal job, right? So tell us, how do you structure your day? What is your work routine looking like?
Okay, so when in that first year of recovery, I actually was working as a counselor at the rehab. And for me, it was quite good to be in that environment still after my treatment. But I was training like a crazy hours in the morning, like 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then going to work. And my son, then shortly after that, we had COVID, and obviously there were no races for that year. My son was at home, my husband was at home, our school was going to work. And then, I mean, I guess it was a bit difficult trying to balance life and being a mom and a wife and having a job, but also training. Part of my recovery is also making amends. So I have amends to make to my son and to my husband and to my parents, and that's being there and being present and being responsible. So it's like, there's that aspect of my life. And then the other part is doing AA meetings and NA meetings. And then I'm a sponsor for women, and then there's the service part of that. And somehow was making it work, but I think towards the beginning of last year, I realized I couldn't do it all, especially competing at a higher level and wanting to do races abroad like UTMB. So I actually resigned from my job and I was studied to be a running coach. And it's something I love. So I have started in that time. I've started my coaching business. I've resigned from work, which has given me like really nice flexibility. I can work for myself. And then, my son, we live on a farm a bit far from where my son goes to school. So he goes to boarding school. I've just fetched him now. And I find that, we make it work, because what I realized was when I was in active addiction, like I might have been around, but I was never there. I wasn't being the person I could be. I wasn't being whole. There were like fragments of me in and out of conversations. Like I desperately wanted to be a good mom. Like I really did. Like I loved my son, but addiction is a disease. And until you find that solution and have a program, it's very, very hard to live a life where you're actually happy, joyous, and free. So now I'm coaching and I'm really loving it. I've got clients all over the world, which is very exciting. And I'm training a bit harder. I had a bit of a op in Feb, so I was off for a few weeks, but I'm back at it, hitting harder.
Hitting harder. I love it. I love it. But Jo, I mean, you also told me a few weeks ago that you also suffered from being super, super skinny because of your addiction, right? But now, I mean, you're training so much. I mean, you're burning so much. How has your eating and lifestyle habits changed in that matter?
Sure. I mean, I think that's such a valid question, especially for female athletes. I mean, I think it's the same in every sport. I know in running, it certainly is an issue. The addiction was half of the problem. I also struggled with bulimia, especially when I was in high school. And, I think for me, it was a bit of a shift, knowing that, okay, I'm a bit bigger and I've put on weight. But what I realized was like, it's like I'm a machine, and I've got to put fuel in the machine or I'm not going to work. And I know if I have days where I'm training 3 or 4 hours, if I don't eat enough, I feel terrible. Like my anxiety goes through the roof. I feel like I can't deal with problems. And then I blame everyone else because I think they're just being idiots. But no, it's my fault because I haven't eaten enough. And like road rage is one sign for me that I haven't eaten enough. I have a very structured, like I eat before I train, I eat after I train, I have lunch, I have an afternoon snack, and I have dinner.
Great. This is amazing, especially for your body that needs fuel. Have you dealt with any other issues because you've been so like skinny and training so much, like missing on your period or having other like symptoms, or is everything fine for you?
I was actually I was very lucky in the sense that, and I think it's genetic as well. My father's Greek and my mom is South African, but they both physically very fit and strong people. So a lot of people were concerned that from me going in treatment, being underweight, and then all of a sudden doing 100 miles, that I would end up with injury, that my hormones would be out of sync and my eating disorder would become an issue. But like, to be honest, I've really maintained a good weight. I mean, I was never this weight that I am now. And through that and taking the right supplements, like I am anemic, so I have to take iron. I take vitamins, I use collagen. I've actually been fine. The only thing that I do struggle with is if I do have a lot of training and I don't eat enough, then I do sense that I think even my sugar levels drop. And I mean, I can't compete at the level that I'm needed if I don't put what I need back into my body.
So that means when you're getting ready for a practice or for your 100-miler or whatever distance you're making, you have like a belt with like all these drinks to stay hydrated and get your nutrition in, and you have like bars, or like, how can we imagine that?
I mean, it's not a belt, it's a whole pack. So yeah, I'm very good with my nutrition. I've worked out what I need and how much I need. For me, one of the things that I use is called More10, and that's a very high carb drink. I mean, one sachet is 80 grams of carbs, and that's in a 500 ml bottle. So on my very long runs, I'll start with that. And I also do eat whole foods. So I'll eat like baby potatoes or salt or sandwiches. And then I normally go on to the goos and the bars later in the race, because what I found is that, obviously when you're running for so many hours, your body, your digestive system doesn't work anymore. It's all your blood is going to your legs and to move. So you can't digest any food that's, complex. It's got to be basic, and that's like literally at the end of the race for me, it's just sugar and chocolate and sweet, which I don't know if it's the best thing, but it seems to work for me. But I did do a run last year. It was called Drakensberg Grand Traverse, and it was 240 Ks, self-navigated, in the Drakensberg Mountains, which are very remote in South Africa. And my friend and I were the only all-female team to finish. And that was 93 hours with 6 hours sleep, and not at one go. It was like 2 hours, half an hour. And there we ate, it's called biltong in South Africa, which is like, I think in America, it's like jerky. It's like dried meat. And we had nuts, and we had sandwiches that were quite old, but we ate those because we were just really hungry. But it was all self-supported. You had to take all your food, all your clothes. And that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, like ever. But I think back to it, and I say to my friend, I can't believe we did that.
Wow, this is so amazing. I can only imagine, like 240 kilometers, self-guided, bring all your stuff, your food, your clothes. Obviously, when you have like your little break, you want to stay warm. And in order to be warm and dry, you need to have fresh clothes. And then you obviously need also help from outside, right? Like you need people that actually come there and maybe take your old stuff so you can go with the dry stuff. Or how does that work?
So this race in particular is very difficult because it's mostly self-supported. So there's only one aid station, and that's at 160 K mark. So only one. So you got to go 160 Ks with all your stuff. So my backpack was 12 kgs.
Wow.
And so like our clothes, we all put in little plastic packets and in dry bags because it was raining. The weather was horrific. That's why it was so hard. We had big thunderstorms, and we had sleet and wind, and we had to tag peaks, and we somehow ended up at the top at like 12 a.m., like in the middle of the night, because it's just our timing was out. So you have the same shoes for 160 Ks. So that was, we got a little bit grumpy with each other. And then at the 160 K mark, we changed things, but then we still had another 60 Ks to go, 60, 70. And by then we were pretty delirious. We both hadn't slept. And I mean, I was hearing things and my friend was seeing things. But yeah, we somehow got through that section, and then we had to go down a very steep and narrow path to get back down to the level that we needed where the pass was. And yeah, it was very technical and rocky, and it was raining, and we were so sleep deprived, and it was dark. But we got down, and then yeah, we just kept moving, you know, even though our minds were somewhere else. Our bodies somehow just kept moving, but like trying to navigate at the same time.
The entire time you were actually running, or were you just walking like fast?
No, it was mostly walking, fast tracking. So we also had poles, and because it's very rocky and steep. But I mean, where we could run, we would run, because we also we wanted to do it in a certain time. And yeah. And also we were so cold. It got to -2 degrees. So we were freezing and we were wet. And when I stopped moving, I got cold. So I just like said to my friend, I have to keep moving or I'm gonna get you know, hypothermic. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was November, and it was my birthday.
So you made the probably best birthday present for yourself when you finished that run.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, part of that was also because it was just like celebrating my life, you know, from being in the dark alone. I was scared to leave my house. I wasn't, when I was using and drinking, I lived in paranoia, you know. And now I'm up in the mountains with one of my good friends, you know, doing this crazy thing that everybody's worried that we're going to die. But yeah, ultimately like celebrating this amazing gift, you know. So yeah, it was incredible.
Like from where you are now, looking back to all the things you have achieved in your life, not just life-wise, but also as an athlete. Can you give us your top 3 things that you are the most proud of?
Yeah, so definitely the first one would be that Drakensberg Grand Traverse with my friend Amri. That, you know, I still have flashbacks of it, and I think how. But after doing that, I think I can do anything. The second one was getting I have the women's record for Tankwa Crossing, which is a desert run. And it was in the middle of summer, and my mom and dad seconded me the whole way. Yeah, my parents have been incredible throughout my journey, and they're always worried about me. And I think that run was celebrating our relationship and all the hardship and like coming through, you know, on the other end together. And then my third one is holding the record for UTD, which is 100-miler in the Drakensberg Mountains.
Wow, that sounds like great achievements. I'm very happy for you, Joe, especially, you know, you've been struggling since you were very young, and now you're like in your mid-30s and everything seems to be so good. You have the life you always wanted. You found a way out of the dark, as you mentioned yourself. And but let me ask you, what is your next step? Like, what's going to happen? Where do we see you? What did you plan for your life?
Well, one of my dreams is to do Ultra Trail Mont Blanc, UTMB, the 100-miler. I think it's, you know, the most well-known 100-miler in the world. And then, yeah, maybe do a few races abroad. There's some incredible races in the US that I'd like to do. Hard Rock 100, Badwater. Yeah, so that's the ultimate goal. Like, you know, but to do it staying healthy, not to run myself on the ground. Like I also want longevity. You know, I want to do this for a long time.
Yes, that's amazing. That sounds amazing. Let me ask you something about your key learnings during COVID and the time after. Like, what was like the top thing that you learned in that time?
So I think I learned discipline, because I carried on running, but I ran like in the dark when no one could see me, early hours of the morning, and I literally ran up and down the steep road. That was it. And I did that for like 3 months, every day. And it was boring and it was dark and it was cold, but I learned that it actually doesn't matter where you are. Like, you can't use that as an excuse not to train. Like, you can actually get it done anywhere. It's all about discipline and mindsets. So that was definitely one. But then on the other side of that coin, I learned that, doing sports in a social setting and community is like super important for your mental health. So yeah, as much as you can have discipline and work hard at things, like sharing it with other people and having them at races and speaking to other women at races, is also a huge part of just having that that mindset, Yeah, and my hands got really dry from all the sanitizer. That was the other thing.
Yeah, don't use too much sanitizer. It's not good. It makes your skin dry. It also kills the good bacteria on your skin that's actually there to save it, right? So just have like a good balance, just like every life.
That's what I've struggled with though my whole life, is balance. That's the one thing I still need to work on. I'm a bit like all or nothing.
Oh, I know you, man. I feel like, balance, is that something you can eat?
Yes, I wish.
Low calorie.
Yeah.
And Jo, also you've been a role model, you've been helping girls and women, and you've been there, you've been a coach. And you also did like volunteer work. You did like the charity run for poor kids that didn't have anything to eat. Tell us about that.
I live in South Africa, and I love my country. I love it. It's a beautiful country, but there is a lot of hardship here. It's a third world country. And I think COVID created an even bigger gap between the very, very poor and perhaps your middle class. And there was, what happened with COVID is that a lot of the children in the schools in South Africa, they go to school and they get fed. That's their source of a meal and their source of comfort, because some of the things they deal with at home are very traumatic. So when I in 2020 during COVID, when I was not able to run, I did a run on our farm where I did laps, and it was 130 kilometers to represent R1.30, which is what it costs us to feed a child a bowl of porridge.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did that, and raised money, and it was donations that were ongoing. So it was a really nice way to keep it moving, so that the kids don't just get one bowl of porridge and that's it. It keeps occurring. So yeah, I did that. But I've also got involved in a bit of charity work in terms of volunteering at a shelter. And I do NA meetings there, because a lot of the people on the streets have drug problems. And you know what? Sometimes you can't blame them, because you look at their situations and what they've come from, and that's their only solution right now. So yeah, I do those meetings, which are also very good for me to see, because like I always say to people, I'm one drink away from being on the street. Like, I could be that person. I'm just lucky. I'm lucky that I had the family I did. That's the only difference, though.
Oh, Jo, this is so inspiring to hear all this. It makes me very proud, it makes me very proud also, not just to know you, but also to have you here and telling your story and, encourage other people and, and just keep pushing through no matter what, like, appreciate the day. Every day you wake up, every day you can go to bed, every time you can have a meal, because I feel like nowadays people are just, they see the little things. Oh, I don't have this and I don't have that. But like, hey, the blessing is out there, You're so lucky every day you wake up. Every day, every time you can breathe, every time you're healthy, every time you're not in pain.
No, absolutely. And it's like, it's so overseen, but it's the basic, it's the fundamentals. It's like having this conversation, how amazing that I can speak to someone across the world doing amazing things in her field. And yeah, it is. I always say to people, having a sense of gratitude is a great remedy to anything. You don't need to take a pill. Just be a bit grateful, or go help someone who doesn't have. Right. And I can guarantee you'll feel better.
Oh no, I'm so happy that we spoke about it, because I feel like some people need to relearn that, Remember when you were a child, you just wanted to have your friend over and stay overnight. You just wanted to have that food, or, you know, the things you wanted were like little and so down to earth. And now things are so crazy, like what people want in life, you know, they don't see the basics anymore. They've been blind, like they're intoxicated, I'm always going to say, with like social media, with everything that people do out there, you know, they just see like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. But how many things from that are actually lies, you know? They just pretend because it's social media.
I mean, so I was listening to a podcast today and it was talking about filters. And I'm guilty. I use filters. I do. But it's like so unrealistic. You know, no one wakes up looking that good. Oh my gosh. But you're right. It's like this precedent that's been set on social media. It's like, and I try to be very honest in my posts, and I write like what's going on for me. Like 2 weeks ago on a Monday, I was not feeling like Monday motivation. I was more like Monday, like I don't want to do this day. And you know, I just shared that, and I got a really good response, because like there are days when things are hard, but it's like, okay, that's cool, but like what can we focus on? Like you don't sit in it, but it's also not presenting stuff that's unrealistic to obtain, because it's
I feel you so much, but you know, sometimes I'm probably a little stupid too, because I have those days where I feel like where I not feel like $1,000,000, you know, where I'm like, oh gosh, how am I just gonna do this, you know? And then I do the training, I do whatever, and then after I'm like, thanks God. I'm so happy I made it. I feel like 1% better than before. Obviously, my mood is better, you know, because I pushed through no matter what. But at one point, you just have to realize, okay, one thing is just mental, but when your body is like drained out, there's a difference. So you have to learn to listen to your inner voice, right?
Well,
I'm sure you know that voice. The voice is like just saying, Joe, do it. You have another 80 kilometers to go. And your body's like, no, we stay. We take off the shoes and we eat them. And we eat some food now.
Yes. No, I mean, I've done a race before when it was that desert run, and I got to, that was 210 Ks, and I got to 160. And there was a little like restaurant in the middle of the desert, and my father is like, Elado koritimo kate kato, like in Greek, saying like, come here, my girl, sit down, relax, have a burger. And I was like, I still have to race. And in that moment, my body was like, okay, you're done. But then my head was like, no, you still gotta go. And that last like 50 Ks was horrific. Like I was being sick and I really struggled. I had to like pull myself through. But it was like my body said, you know, it's enough.
But you know, I can only say the feeling after when you've done it, no matter if it's a run, a fight, a session, whatever, a shitty day, aren't you just so proud of yourself? Like this feeling is just payless. It's like, thanks. But like, this is good that, you know, like even us athletes, obviously we have our days where we just struggle, then we have our period. We are in pain, I don't know, but you know, when we talk to our community and being honest, just like you said in your post, which I am too, you know, obviously I also put like nice pictures and be like, hey, but you know, it's normal that not everything is perfect all the time, right? So, I mean, I think this is what is good about us, that we also share the truth and not just show the golden stuff, the golden plates, you know?
No, I mean, the thing is, and I'm sure you have far more experiences in this than I do, but the short amount that I have been doing this is that like, when I get my period, I really struggle. Like my energy levels are low. I feel bloated. I feel fat. I feel like I've put on 10 kgs and I'm like dragging my bum behind me on my run, which is not true. It's not, but that's how I feel. Yeah. And yeah, it is hard, but it's that whole thing of like, motivation follows action. Like we can't just expect to feel motivated and run or go work out or box, or you know, you've got to put the action in, and then you feel good, and then you feel motivated. So it's like you've just got to do and then let that motivation follow.
Right. And yeah, you mentioned that earlier, like so many people have so many excuses for things, right? I feel like there's always something. Okay, the weather was shitty. It was too cold. My guinea pig broke the leg. Whatever. Like, it would be so nice if people could just be honest. Coach, today I'm not feeling good. I actually slept in. My mind didn't want to go, but my body didn't. My body just shut off, or whatever. But people lie so much.
Yeah. No, it is. It's like that. Like you make things up to make yourself feel good, but who are you kidding at the end of the day? You're only lying to yourself.
Right.
But I mean, what I want to know, and maybe you can help me with this, is when do you learn to differentiate as an athlete when you actually are tired and you need to stop? That's what I struggle with.
Well, I just had the recent example. I was thinking, maybe am I getting a little flu, because I was so sad, not sad, like tired. I almost felt sick. I was like, oh, what is going on? I was so exhausted. My body was drained out, and I just went to bed. I think it was Sunday at like 8, and I just slept like 12 hours. I was so tired. And then once I went back, and I was like, man, I'm so tired. Like, I cannot even focus. Like, I'm just doing like a pretty technical class, and my brain right now is just like, when like the easiest techniques are not working because you're not there, then okay, that's a sign.
Yeah. So I mean, but with you, it's like a lot of focus, I imagine, as opposed to running, where you can just like go.
Yeah, especially when you train with a partner, right? When you do sparring with many people and you're not feeling good, and eventually you make mistakes, but those mistakes in fighting and in combat, I mean, they're like devastating. Like, you can break any bone, you can seriously injure yourself. So you have to make sure you're on top,
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes you do 1-2 rounds, you're like, okay, that's it, because I would like to push through, but I know if I go further, I'm just gonna injure myself. That's it. Especially when you run, you're not focused, you sprain your ankle, you hurt your knee. I don't know, like so many things, because you were not there, you were not in that moment.
Yeah.
So you have to like see that. But I think the older we get, the more knowledge we also get about, our body and the body, mind, soul, like entire thing, that everything plays together in order to be healthy, right? It's not just the body, it's your body, mind, and soul, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's like that holistic view. It's like you can't go to the doctor and they say, oh, you need to go on antidepressants, but then they don't ask you if you're exercising or how do you sleep or what do you eat.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I've definitely I'm learning to be more intuitive as I'm getting older. And yeah, I've definitely done some very stupid things in my youth. So hopefully that's all done.
That's past now. That's past. This has been the first chapters. That's it. Because I mean, everybody makes mistakes, especially in the beginning of their lives. I mean, some people do the mistakes later, but we are happy that we did the mistakes when we were young, so we can just move on.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Oh, Jo, I'm so sorry. It was like a long time, and we only have 1 minute left. So
oh my God.
I would be really happy if you would leave us your last comment, thoughts, and hints, whatever you want to say to the audience.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like what I said. It's that motivation follows action, and it's about just showing up and doing what you need to do. And sometimes it's not as far as what you can see, but it's your actions that might help and affect somebody else. And that is the greatest gift, is when you do something and other people benefit from it. There's no feeling that beats that. So yeah, that's definitely something that's stuck with me, and I would like it to stay with me.
Jo Keppler, I thank you so much. Women Hit Harder, episode 47. I hope you had a great time. I had a great time. I thank you so much, and I wish you all the best. And I hope to see you succeed in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you for having me. It was just such an honor and privilege. Thank you.
So, ihr Lieben, das war's für heute. Falls ihr Fragen oder Ideen habt, Anregungen, dann sendet mir doch gerne eine E-Mail an info@womenhitharder.com. Ansonsten bis in 2 Wochen zur nächsten Folge von Women Hit Harder. Bis dahin, bleibt gesund. Eure Julia.